The untouchable empire. The galaxy had many powers, many rulers, and many rising empires. But above them all stood one name that no one dared to challenge, the Zirith Empire. For centuries, the Zirith ruled with iron claws and endless fleets. Worlds fell under their shadow without a single fight. Entire species whispered their name in fear, because those who stood against them were erased from history. The Zirith Empire was not just strong. It was believed to be untouchable. Merchants spoke in hushed tones, warning their children never to fly close to the empire's borders. Captains marked their maps with red zones, promising never to cross them. Even the bravest warriors of the galaxy accepted the truth. Once you entered Zirith space, you never returned. The Empire made sure of that. Ships that wandered too close were captured and destroyed. Colonies that tried to rebel were crushed within days. Every act of resistance ended with burning cities and silent planets. The Zirith wanted the galaxy to believe one thing. They could never be beaten. And for a very long time, everyone believed it. But then came the humans. No one expected them. Humanity was young compared to the great races. Their fleets were small. Their colonies were new. The galaxy barely noticed them, until one mistake changed everything. It started with a jump. Small human exploration ship attempted a warp through a dangerous corridor of space. The jump failed, and the ship slipped into the one place no one ever wanted to go, Zirith territory. The crew didn't know it yet, but the moment they appeared, hundreds of sensors locked onto them. The Zirith Navy moved fast. Within minutes, human explorers found themselves surrounded by black warships, their spikes gleaming like blades in the void. For most species, this was the end. Panic, terror, and surrender would follow. The Zirith enjoyed such moments. They fed on the fear of their enemies. But this time, something different happened. The humans did not scream. They did not beg. They looked at one another and laughed. At. First, it was a small chuckle from one crewman, then another. Soon the entire ship echoed with laughter. The Zirith commander, listening through combs, froze. No one laughed in the face of the Empire. No one mocked death. But the humans did, and that laughter was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember. The moment. A group of fragile humans, trapped inside the deadliest Empire's borders, dared to smile when the universe expected silence. Rumors spread quickly. Other species whispered, were the humans insane? Or did they know something no one else did? The Zirith didn't wait for answers. They prepared their weapons, ready to erase the trespassers. To them, this was nothing more than another example, another chance to remind the galaxy why they were feared. But the humans, sitting in their little ship, continued to grin. One even joked, "Do you think they'll ask for our autographs after this?" The crew laughed again. The sound carried through the Empire's channels like fire. And deep inside, the Zirith felt something they had not felt in centuries. Not fear, not anger, but doubt. The humans had entered forbidden space by accident, yet they acted as if they owned it. They had no massive fleets behind them, no secret weapons hidden on their ship. All they carried was courage and laughter. It was unthinkable. And that was what made it dangerous, because laughter, in the eyes of the oppressed, was more powerful than fear. The Zirith Empire, untouchable for so long, did not know it yet, but the myth of their power had already started to crack. And it began with a single sound, a sound of humans laughing in the dark. First contact in forbidden space, the human ship drifted slowly through the cold darkness. Its engines were damaged from the failed jump, and sparks danced across broken panels. The crew knew they were deep inside forbidden space, but there was no way back. Then the shadows moved. One by one, massive Zirith warships appeared around them. Their hulls were sharp, black as night, covered with glowing red marks that pulsed like living veins. The human ship was nothing compared to them, like a small boat surrounded by towering battleships. The Zereth commander stepped forward on his egg bridge. His body was tall and armored in dark plates, his eyes burning with cold fire. He looked at the tiny human vessel and sneered. "Another insect has wandered into the Empire's nest," he said to his officers. "Prepare to destroy it." But before giving the final order, he paused. The humans were laughing again. Through the comms, their voices carried. Not screams, not cries, just laughter. One crewman joked, "I think they brought too many ships for just us." Another replied, "Maybe they're scared of our little shuttle." The entire crew chuckled, as if death itself was a bad joke. The Zereth officers looked at one another in confusion. No alien had ever behaved this way before. When the Empire's fleet surrounded someone, they begged. They wept. They tried to make deals. But humans? They laughed. The commander narrowed his eyes. He wanted to crush them, to silence that sound. But another idea formed in his mind. Destroying them now would be too easy, too quick. He wanted to show the galaxy what happened when fools dared to mock the Empire. "Capture them," the commander ordered. "Let them face the trial." The trial, it was a cruel game the Zereth enjoyed. Captured outsiders were thrown into impossible test arenas filled with monsters, machines, and death traps. None had ever survived. The Zereth always broadcasted these trials across the galaxy, reminding everyone why resistance was hopeless. Humans would be perfect. Their laughter would be turned into screams for all to hear. Inside the human ship, the crew noticed the shift. Weapons were not fired. Instead, strange tractor beams wrapped around their vessel, dragging them toward massive Zereth station. The crew exchanged glances. "So, they're not killing us yet," one said. "Good," another replied with a grin. "That means we'll have more time to laugh." Even in chains, the humans refused to change. The galaxy began to take notice. Pirate networks whispered about humans caught in the trial. Traders spread the news in secret. And far away, oppressed races of the Empire leaned closer to their screens, waiting. The humans were brought into the station. Cold halls of black steel swallowed them, lined with glowing red runes. The Zereth guards hissed as they shoved the crew forward, but the humans only smiled back. Finally, they stood before the trial master, a towering Zereth warrior with claws like blades and a voice that shook the chamber. "You dare laugh at the Empire?" The trial master growled. "Then laugh as you die." He announced to the galaxy that new victims had been chosen. The broadcast spread to countless worlds. Billions of eyes turned to their screens, expecting another hopeless slaughter. The arena. Doors opened. The humans were pushed inside. The place was enormous, a pit of steel and stone, with walls that rose like mountains. The ground rumbled as cages unlocked. Strange beasts with armored hides and glowing eyes stepped out, snarling. Above, countless Zereth citizens filled the stands, roaring for blood. The trial had begun. Most species would fall to their knees in terror. But the humans? One of them looked at the beasts and smirked. "Well, they don't look friendly." Another answered, "At least they're uglier than us." And once again, they laughed. The crowd went silent for a moment. Then anger replaced it. How could prey dare to laugh at death? The Zereth shouted, demanding blood. But down below, the humans were already moving. They spread out, their eyes sharp, their steps calm. They carried no advanced weapons, only what they could scavenge. Yet they moved like hunters who had done this before. The beasts charged. The humans stood ready, and the galaxy held its breath, because for the first time in living memory, the trial might not go as the Zereth planned. And deep inside the crowd, whispers began. Maybe the humans were not fools. Maybe they were something far more dangerous. The laughter that started as a joke now carried something else, something the Zereth had never faced before. Hope that the Empire tests humanity. The arena shook as the trial began. From the steel gates, first wave of beasts poured out, creatures bred only for killing. They were massive, armored with bone-like plates, their jaws lined with razor teeth. Their glowing eyes locked on to the humans. The Zereth crowd roared with excitement, already tasting victory. No one had ever survived the trial. Not one. The Zereth Emperor himself was watching from his throne, his burning gaze fixed on the tiny figures below. To him, this was nothing more than a lesson for the galaxy. A reminder that laughter at the Empire always ended in screams. But the screams never came. Instead, the humans spread out across the battlefield with calm precision. They had no shields, no heavy weapons. Their tools were scavenged scraps, metal rods, broken panels, a few sharp fragments. Yet they moved like warriors who had trained together for years. The first beast charged, its claws tearing into the stone. A human shouted, "Left flank," and 3 crewmen leapt aside as another struck the creature's legs with sharpened poles. It stumbled, crashing into the wall. The crowd hissed in confusion. Another beast lunged, jaws snapping. One of the humans tossed a shard of metal, striking its eye. As the beast screamed, 2 others climbed its back, using belts as ropes, and drove steel fragments into its neck. The monster collapsed in a heap. The arena fell silent. The Zereth expected panic, but what they saw looked like teamwork. Clever, fast, and ruthless. And worse. The humans laughed as they fought. One shouted, "Is that all they've got?" Another answered, "Maybe the next round will be harder." The crew chuckled, even while blood and dust stained their clothes. The trial master's claws clenched. This was not how it was supposed to go. He ordered the next phase. From hidden doors, mechanical hunters rolled out machines forged from black steel, armed with plasma blades and heavy cannons. They had slaughtered hundreds of challengers before. Their glowing red eyes scanned the humans and locked on. The Zereth cheered again, certain this would end the joke. The machines advanced, but once more the humans refused to fear. Instead, their leader raised a hand. "Disperse," he ordered. The humans split into small groups, darting between the ruins and broken pillars of the arena. The machines fired, plasma bolts tearing through stone. Dust filled the air. And then something unexpected happened. One human tossed a piece of broken wiring onto a metal floor plate. Sparks danced, and the machine's sensors flickered. Another crewman shouted coordinates, luring 2 machines into colliding with each other. A third climbed onto a damaged hunter, prying open its panel and pulling wires free until it collapsed in smoke. The crowd gasped. The Zereth had always relied on brute strength and fear. But humans? They used something else. Creativity. Every trap turned into a tool. Every weapon turned into a joke. When a machine exploded, sending flames high into the air, one human coughed through the smoke and laughed. That's one way to light up the place. His crew laughed with him, even as the trial master roared in fury. The Emperor leaned forward in his throne. For centuries, his empire had ruled through terror. But these humans, they treated terror like a comedy. And it was working. The arena beasts were dead. The machines were wrecked. Yet the humans stood tall, grinning like victorious warriors. The Zereth citizens in the stands shifted uncomfortably. Some hissed in anger. Others whispered in secret. For the first time in generations, they were seeing something impossible. Outsiders who did not bow, who did not cry. Outsiders who laughed. The trial master raised his voice. "Enough games. Bring in the Titans." The ground shook. Massive gates opened, and from the darkness came the Titans' giant war beasts. each the size of a building, armored in spikes, with molten breath that could melt steel. The crowd cheered again, though their voices were less certain now. Down, below, the humans looked up at the towering monsters. For a moment, even they were silent. Then one of them grinned. "Finally," he said, "something big enough to wrestle." The crew burst into laughter, and the galaxy, watching from countless worlds, leaned closer to their screens. Something was happening here, something no one had ever seen before. The trial was supposed to prove the Empire untouchable. Instead, it was exposing a weakness, because fear was the weapon of the Zereth, and fear had no power over those who laughed. Titans roared. The humans tightened their grips on their makeshift weapons. The next battle was about to begin. And deep inside, for the first time in centuries, the Zereth Empire felt a flicker of doubt. Laughter on the battlefield. The Titans stood like living mountains, their molten breath hissing in the air, their spiked tails dragging across the ground like whips. Each step shook the arena floor. The Zereth crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing like thunder. This was the end. No one had ever faced the Titans and lived. The Emperor leaned back on his throne, certain that the humans' laughter would finally stop. But the laughter didn't stop. Instead, one human raised his voice and called out, "Hey, did anyone bring a leash for that thing?" The others burst out laughing, pointing at the enormous beast. The Zereth citizens froze. This was not fear. This was mockery. The Titans roared and charged. Their claws tore through stone, and their molten breath lit the air in rivers of fire. But the humans were fast. They dodged, rolled, and split into teams, their movements sharp and coordinated. One crewman shouted, "Distracted!" Another grabbed a piece of broken metal and banged it against a wall. The Titan turned, smashing its massive head into the arena pillar. Dust rained down. The humans laughed again, cheering as though they were playing a game. The Zereth hissed in disbelief. What kind of prey laughed while being hunted? The battle grew louder. Fire, stone, and roars filled the arena. But over it all came the sound of human voices joking, teasing, and laughing. "Watch your step, big guy." One shouted as a Titan stumbled over wreckage. "That one's slower than my grandmother." Another yelled, making the crew laugh so hard they nearly dropped their weapons. Every laugh echoed across the galaxy. Billions were watching. Species enslaved by the Empire leaned closer to their screens. For them, laughter was forbidden. Laughter was punished. And yet here were humans laughing in the face of monsters. It was more than courage. It was rebellion. The humans worked like hunters, using the Titan's size against them. One group lured a beast toward the broken machines, while another climbed the ruins of a collapsed wall. From above, they leapt down with sharpened rods, striking at the beast's weak spots, its eyes, its throat, the gaps between its armor. The Titan bellowed in pain, stumbling as its molten breath set even its own tail on fire. A crowd gasped. Humans cheered. "That's one down." One shouted, raising a broken spear high. The second Titan roared with rage, smashing its tail across the ground. The impact threw humans into the air. The Zereth cheered, certain the laughter would finally end. But when the dust cleared, the humans groaned, stood up, and laughed even harder. "Is that all you've got?" Their leader shouted, his grin wide despite the blood on his face. The crowd fell silent. For centuries, they had only known two sounds in the arena: screams and silence. But never this. Never laughter. The humans regrouped. They spread out again, their eyes burning with fire. One crewman tied broken machine parts together, creating a crude explosive. Another set a trap using fallen chains and jagged metal. They didn't fight like the Zereth. They didn't fight with brute force. They fought with imagination, and the galaxy noticed. On hidden channels, alien slaves whispered, "If humans can laugh at death, maybe we can laugh at fear." The second Titan charged. But this time, the humans were ready. They lured it toward the trap. Chains wrapped around its legs, pulling tight as the humans yanked from both sides. The beast stumbled, crashing face first into the ground. The crude explosive was thrown. Flames erupted. The Titan screeched, its armored body cracking. When the smoke cleared, the second Titan lay motionless. The arena fell into silence. No one could believe what they had just seen. The impossible had happened, not once, but twice. The humans stood, covered in dust and blood, breathing hard. And then one of them lifted his head and started laughing again. Soon, the entire crew joined in, their laughter rolling across the arena like thunder. It was not the laughter of fools. It was the laughter of warriors who refused to break. Zirith citizens trembled. Their emperor clenched his fists, furious. This was not a trial anymore. This was humiliation. The trial master roared in rage. Enough! Enough of this mockery. But the damage was already done. The myth of the untouchable empire had cracked. Billions had watched the humans laugh through monsters, machines, and titans. The Zirith wanted fear, but instead they gave. The galaxy hoped. And deep inside the arena, one truth became clear. The more the humans laughed, the weaker the empire became. Breaking the untouchable myth, the smoke from the fallen titans still drifted across the arena. The bodies of the monsters lay broken, their roars silenced forever. For the first time in centuries, the trial had ended differently. Not with screams, not with silence, but with laughter. The humans stood in the center of the battlefield, bruised, bleeding, and exhausted. Yet their grins were wide, their voices alive. They laughed as though the monsters had been nothing more than clumsy beasts in a children's game. The Zirith citizens in the stands shifted uneasily. They had come to see death, to see strangers humiliated. Instead, they had witnessed something unthinkable. Outsiders had survived. Worse outsiders had mocked the Empire while doing it. The Emperor's claws dug into the arms of his throne. His voice rumbled like thunder. This cannot be allowed. They are insects. They must be crushed. But deep inside, he felt something unfamiliar. Something dangerous. Across the galaxy, the broadcast spread. On slave worlds in hidden colonies, in secret resistance, Camp's aliens watched the humans laugh at the Empire's greatest weapons. And for the first time in living memory, hope stirred. If humans can laugh at the Empire, whispered a miner chained in the pits, then maybe the Empire can bleed. The trial master, furious and humiliated, demanded the final round. Release the Iron Colossus. He roared. The arena shook as the gates opened once more. From the darkness came a war machine the size of a fortress, built from black steel, and powered by molten cores. Its arms were cannons. Its steps shattered stone. The Zirith believed no army could ever bring it down. The crowd cheered, desperate to see their myth restored. The Colossus would crush these laughing humans, and the galaxy would remember to fear again. But the humans only exchanged glances. Their leader smirked. "Big toy," he said. "Bigger target." And once again, they laughed. The Colossus raised its cannons and fired. Blinding streams of plasma ripped across the arena, tearing walls apart. The humans scattered, rolling behind fallen pillars. Dust filled the air, but their laughter still echoed. "Anyone bring marshmallows?" One shouted, pointing at the fire. The crew laughed again, even as debris rained down around them. The Zirith hissed in outrage. This wasn't how prey behaved. Prey screamed. Prey begged. But humans? Humans treated death like a joke. And the galaxy noticed. The Colossus advanced, firing again and again. But the humans were not just laughing. They were planning. One group scrambled toward the wreckage of the fallen machines, pulling wires, gathering power cells. Another climbed the broken walls, setting traps with chains and jagged metal. Weren't fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like survivors. Every scrap became a weapon. Every second became an opportunity. The Colossus swung its massive arm, smashing through a pillar. Humans leapt aside, dodging just in time. Their leader shouted, "Now!" One of the crew hurled a stolen power cell toward the machine's core. Another threw a chain to drag it closer. The explosion tore across the Colossus's chest, cracking. Its armor. Sparks rained down. The crowd gasped. The myth was breaking. The Colossus stumbled. The humans pressed harder, their voices filled with laughter and battle cries. They climbed onto the machine, smashing its joints with scavenged rods. One pried open its neck panel and shoved another power cell inside. The Colossus roared, its systems failing. With one last shudder, the massive war machine collapsed, shaking the ground as it fell. The arena went silent. The Zereth had no cheers left. The humans stood atop the wreckage, dust rising around them. They were battered, scarred, and bleeding, but still laughing. Guess it wasn't untouchable after all. One said with a grin. Their laughter carried across the galaxy like thunder. And in that moment, the myth of the untouchable empire shattered. Gone. Distant worlds, slaves dared to smile. In hidden colonies, rebels raised their heads. Fear had ruled the galaxy for centuries. But now, something stronger had arrived. Hope. Born from laughter, the Emperor rose from his throne, his voice filled with rage. Enough! These humans mock us before the galaxy. End this now. But it was already too late. The galaxy had seen what no one believed possible. The Zereth Empire could be challenged. The Zereth Empire could bleed dot, and the Zereth Empire could fall. The humans, standing proud in the ruins of the arena, laughed once more, and the galaxy laughed with them. The fall of the untouchable, the Empire's fleet, floated in silence. Wreckage drifted among the stars. The once proud banners of the alien rulers, now nothing but torn shadows in space. Commanders across the galaxy stared at their screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. The untouchable empire, the one that ruled with fear for thousands of years, was broken by the very species they mocked. Humans. At the center of it all stood Captain Rylan. His ship, damaged but still alive, hovered in victory. The crew laughed in disbelief, not out of cruelty, but out of relief. They had faced death and turned it into triumph. The alien generals, who once thought humanity weak, now trembled. Messages filled the channel's questions, demands, even pleas. "How did you do this?" they asked. "What are humans?" But Rylan only smiled. His reply was simple. "We are survivors. We are dreamers. And we are not afraid of empires." The word spread like fire. Across distant planets, enslaved species whispered them with hope. For the first time, they saw that the empire could be challenged, that power built on fear could crumble when faced with courage. The council gathered in panic. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted revenge. But all of them agreed on one thing: humanity was no longer just a small voice in the galaxy. They were a storm, and storms never bow to thrones. The story of the untouchable empire would now be told with a different ending, an ending written in human laughter and unshakable will. A new dawn. The galaxy was silent. For the first time in living memory, the banners of the empire no longer flew over conquered worlds. Ships that once carried chains now carried questions. Humanity had done the impossible. They had walked into the empire's territory, laughing, and left standing on the ruins of fear. But victory brought choices. Captain Rylan sat in the War Council chamber, surrounded by alien leaders who once feared to even whisper against the empire. Their eyes, once full of suspicion, now looked at the humans with hope. "Will you rule us?" one asked. His voice trembled, afraid of exchanging one master for another. Raylan shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "We don't want thrones. We don't want crowns. Humanity does not come to rule. We come to live free, and we will fight so that others can live free too." His words shocked them more than the battles did. For thousands of years, the Empire taught them that power only meant domination. But here were humans, victorious, refusing to sit on the throne they had shattered. Instead, humans offered something greater. "Stand with us," Rylan said. "Together, we build a galaxy where laughter is not forbidden, where no one bows out of fear, where no empire decides who deserves to live." Across the stars, the message spread. The oppressed rose, not to serve humans, but to stand beside them. The empire was gone. In its place, something new was being born. Not a throne, not an empire, but a promise. And in the heart of that promise was humanity, small, stubborn, and unafraid. The galaxy would never forget the day humans walked into untouchable territory laughing, because that laughter was the sound of freedom.